This is not a video about what happened in Venezuela in the night of the 3rd of January 2026. This is a video about why I made no videos about what happened in Venezuela in the night of the 3rd of January 2026. Welcome, I'm Gas, and this is Millennium 7. So for those who have been living under a rock, on the night of the 3rd of January 2026, the United States executed an operation in the territory and the airspace in and around Venezuela, and the purpose was to kidnap the then Venezuelan President Maduro and his wife. The operation succeeded, and that was the end of it, at least from a military point of view. Obviously, this is a very important event in the context of the international geopolitics, but from a military point of view, yeah, that was exactly the point. So the operations was very quick, lasted a few hours. There were no losses on the American side, and there were some losses on the Venezuelan side. The American destroyed some of the Venezuelan ground-based air defenses, and this opened the way for a wave of helicopters that flew over Caracas and landed at Maduro's location, neutralized his security guards, and there were some losses there, and then they took Maduro away. He's now in the United States facing trials. And the fact that the operation was executed so brilliant caused an outburst of interesting memes on the internet in which the Russian S-300 or the Chinese JYI-27 raiders were sort of mocked. And, well, to be honest, this was started at quite high level.
Seems those Russian air defenses didn't quite work so well, did they?
I personally would argue that this operation tells nothing that we didn't already know. And this is the reason why it is not worth covering. And to be honest, what happened was 100% expected. Point of disinterest number one. We know that the Americans flew 150 missions that night, considering the helicopters and considering that normally 60-70% of the missions and the sorties are support sorties, are tankers, AWACS, drones, electronic warfare, communication nodes, and so on. This leaves us with, say, 40-50 combat aircraft flying over Venezuela. Now, the Venezuelan Air Force has probably less than 20 operational combat aircraft. There are a few very old F-16s, but also a few Su-30s. These are in a very bad maintenance state. They fly very little. So the Venezuelan Air Force was definitely incapable of reacting to anything the American could have used against them. Second point of disinterest. Despite the fact that they had ample notice, apparently the Venezuelans did not really prepare for this operation. Some analysts estimated that about 40% of all their ground-based air defenses were actually in storage. As among those not in storage, only a few units even tried to turn on their radars and react somehow. And at that point, it was honestly not surprising that they have been destroyed relatively easily. Point of disinterest number three. So Venezuela has bought a few Chinese low-frequency radars, and apparently they have been hit as well. They were turned on during the attack, but they have been hit, or they have been neutralized with electronic warfare. Well, the second option is probably a bit more difficult to believe, but surely they were targets. Now, what it seems is that these radars were not even remotely integrated with the Venezuelan air defenses. And to be honest, the very fact that the Venezuelan had an integrated air defenses was incorrect, to say the least, in the sense that even their air defenses were in a very bad state. Fourth point of disinterest, there was almost no reaction from individual soldiers trying to use AAAs or short-range missiles, even the helicopters themselves. And this is basically incredible. They were flying over Caracas freely. They took some fire, they took some damage here and there, but overall they operated in almost permissive environment. And the fact that even this kind of, let's say, pointless reaction, but instinct of a soldier or commander would be at least try to do something. The fact that it didn't happen point us to the fifth point of disinterest. The only explanation that the Venezuelans performed so poorly, the only explanation why even the few relatively modern assets that they had were not operational, and the fact that there was basically no reaction points to the fact that all these military units were probably being ordered to stand down, which is only possible if the Venezuelan army decided to sort of not protect Maduro and abdicated to their mission. I'm sure that not everyone did this. There were some reactions. I'm sure that not everybody agreed with this. This is not a slight to the Venezuelan armed forces. This is probably just politics, something that probably went well above their head. So, given the situation, it is not surprising that the operation went very well for the Americans. I mean, it was an operation conducted in almost permissive space. No surprise that it went well. And the very fact that the Venezuelans stand down and the space was permissive, well, means that there's really nothing interesting to discuss. And that's the reason why I didn't do any specific analysis. However, there may be one area of interest. That is, if the Chinese radar were actually turned on. Since they were low-frequency radars, so radars that, in theory, should be capable of identifying stealth aircraft at distances longer than the normal air surveillance or fire control radars, the question is, did they see anything? Well, if they saw anything, probably there was nothing they could do about it because there were, as I said, almost no air defenses active and the Air Force wisely remained on the ground. But the point is, did the Chinese acquire some information on the radar signature of the F-35 and the F-22? I mean, it's a possibility. We will probably never know for many years, but I think it is food for thought.
大家好，我是主播林家远。生活压力大，失眠、浅眠是现代人常见的烦恼。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌现在进一步推出晚安加强版，添加天然 GABA、色氨酸、茶氨酸、香蜂草4大天然草本。选择太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌，做好日常保养，身体轻松无负担。每日克菲尔，时刻美好 ，Good Feel Good。请上快点购为健康下单，输入推荐码有额外折扣。太阳星全效克菲尔益生菌基础版、晚安加强版，新包装改版，内容不变，抽取更方便。要吃就吃最好的。